has got two very exciting projects in Norway. Next slide, please. Just to start out with the forward-looking statements, you should do your own due diligence. We'll be making some forward-looking statements here today, so please act accordingly. Management, myself, Paulo was just hired about 2 weeks ago. He's going to be working for us full-time in Norway. And as you know, it's very difficult to find good people, but getting Paulo, whose background goes back to Eurozink, which is very similar to the project that we've got in Norway. And Jitbas's background is Corp and Newmont and Sarah Stryver, Doug Cavey, George Cavey. George has been with me since my Orco Silver days. And next slide. Shares outstanding, 86 million shares out. Most of the money that has been raised in this company, I would say 65% of it's been raised by insiders and very, very close people. Next slide. So background, proven track record. I was the founder of Orco Silver, basically started the company from nothing, acquiring the La Preciosa, building it up to over 400 million ounces of silver, and running into Keith Neumeyer and had him make the bid for the company. And eventually Coeur Mining came in and outbid Keith, and the transaction was $350 million, which closed in February of 2013. Also involved in the South Camas, right from the discovery until the time that we sold it to Royal Oak back in the early 2000s. And that was another $400 million transaction. Next slide. So why Norway? It's a very interesting story. Sitting in my office one day, listening to Bloomberg in the background, the CEO of Norwegian sovereign fund, Statoil, came on and was basically talking about Norway beginning to run out of oil and gas. And they were looking to go outside of Norway for the very first time to invest in other investments, similar to oil and gas or environmentally friendly material. And while he was doing all that, he suggested that Norway has a very historical mining history that goes all the way back to the Vikings, and that all these mining assets have been sort of sitting around with no activity in over 100 years, and that he wanted to see if people would come in and look at the Norwegian mining assets and come and invest in Norway. So as a result of that, I told George Cavey and 3 other geologists to go to Norway. That was February of 2018, and to go and see what kind of projects that we could acquire. So 2010, Norway basically changed its mining law. Until 2010, you could own any mining projects in Norway without having to do any work. So, you could own it forever. And 2010, everyone got 7 years to come in and do something on these properties, or they would lose the properties back to the government. And as a result of that, 2018, February, March, when we went there, a tremendous amount of these projects came back to the government. And while we were doing our due diligence, George ran into Eric Jensen from EMX Royalties. Okay, and basically EMX was looking to do the same thing as we were looking. And the only difference was that we, being a small company, we didn't have as much money. EMX had lots of money. So what we decided to do was work in a team, we would help them look for all the projects, and they would pay for all the acquisitions. And then we would get the first right of refusal on any of the projects that were acquired at that time. So EMX around 2018 acquired maybe 60 projects with the help of George and some of the geos that we had hired. And out of that, we acquired 4 projects out of that portfolio. Okay. 2019, we basically, next slide. 2019, we basically decided, okay, out of the 4, what are we going to focus on? And we decided that based on the due diligence that we did, the Bleikvassli and the Meraker would be the two projects that we would focus on, simply because they were both very high-end projects, both located in a very good location, central Norway, and with good infrastructure, which I'll go into next slide. So the Bleikvassli project is a past-producing mine. It's kind of produced on and off since 1914. A little history there. As you know, Scandinavia, a lot of history mining going back to the Vikings. So the Germans invaded the Scandinavian countries around the First World War. As a result of that, the Scandinavian countries basically went out of their way to destroy as much of the infrastructure so that they wouldn't take advantage of their resources. So that went on from the First to the Second World War. And in 1957, Norway discovered the largest oil discovery, which is the North Sea oil. So as a result of that, a lot of these projects kind of just sat around with no activity until late 60s, when the Bleikvassli started on and off production, going all the way to 1992. From 1992 to 1997, 5 years, the mine produced at the rate of 350 tons. And just suddenly as they stopped mining in 97. The reason was that they weren't making any money because metal prices at the time were very low. As you know, gold was at $260 an ounce. Copper was like 30, 40 cents a pound. Silver was, I don't know, 50 cents an ounce or whatever. So the numbers just didn't make sense for them. So 97, when it stopped, to the time that we acquired the mine in 2019, has been zero activity on these properties. It's been on care and maintenance until this time. And when we went in there, we didn't expect to find the amount of data that we discovered. We figured, okay, we go in there and we'd have to recreate a lot of the data that was either, somewhere in a storage somewhere. And George happened to go in the summer of 2019 and met with the mine manager just by doing his due diligence on the property. And the mine manager says, look, here is a room that is full of the data that you need. George was asking, why did you stop? Was there any issues? Were there any major headaches that you had to go through? And George goes into this room and sees a tremendous amount of data that's all in paper form. So he calls me up and he says, look, I don't think I have the time to sit here and go through this whole data. We need to hire somebody to digitize the data. So between us and EMX, what we did was we ended up hiring some Norwegian mining students. And as a result of that, 60, 70% of the data is digitized so far. And as a result of that, what we discovered was that they mined 5 million tons. What they left behind was an equivalent amount similar to that or greater. And the reason that I say that is because the historical drill holes, there's over 1,400 drill holes on this property. The property has power right onto the property. It has paved highway. There's a port half an hour away. Next slide, please. And if you look at the similarities that the project that he acquired to the Zinkgruvan mine that Lundin acquired in the early 1990s, okay, is very similar geology. When Lundin acquired Zinkgruvan, it was similar grade, like 5 to 7 million tons. And ever since they acquired this mine, they haven't stopped mining on it. They're probably taken out probably in excess of $14, $15 billion, probably the foundational Lundin mine today. Okay, so this project here has a lot of upside. Next slide. So mine site gives you an overview of the mine, a little bit of history that I just talked about. Next slide. So this is a three-dimensional picture of the mine. The data that we acquired, all the holes that we found have all been input into a leapfrog model, which unfortunately I couldn't put on this presentation today, but if you go to our website, there's a 2-minute leapfrog model video. Okay, that kind of gives you an idea of what they took out, where they're mining, and where they stopped. So a lot of what you see there are all the drill holes. As they go deeper, so they mine to about 200 meters. But they drilled to a depth of 480 meters. The deeper they went, the grade of copper, silver increased significantly. They did not focus while they were mining for copper, gold, and silver back in the 90s. Okay, they were focusing more on zinc. Zinc grades also are increasing. Also open to the north. You can see some of the drill holes there. You can see some of the adits that they already input, but they never went and mined, okay? On the south side, there's a clear fault that shows that the whole deposit's clearly fallen off, okay? And normally in a mining situation like what we have here, the fault's probably not that far away. So what we need to do is go and find out where that extension of that fault is, okay? So that gives you the big upside at depth on either sides. Also shows you a shaft that's already in place. There's over 27 kilometers of tunneling work that's already in place. Next slide. So you can see Doug Cavey standing at one of the portals. These are all 3x3 or in some cases bigger. So a lot of that infrastructure is in place. The advantage that you have in Norway is that every drilling company that drills a core has to send half the core to the Loken core storage facility. So we feel that there's over 400 drill holes from the Bleikvassli mine today that is stored up in the Loken facility that we can go and re-assay again at any time. So the plan going forward, next slide. So the plan going forward on the Bleikvassli is to go and take a lot of that historical work and bring it into a new 43-101 compliant resource. The amount of money that would take is about $1.8 to $2 million. What that would do is we would go and arbitrarily drill holes in between some of the historical holes, see what kind of clarity we get back. Also go and randomly pick some drill holes that we would go and at random drill to see what we're getting back. If those results are similar to the historical results that we've obtained so far, independent geologists would definitely take some of that and give us into a 43-101 new resource that would be our starting point. So the timeline on that would be roughly 12 to 15 months. Going forward from there, the Bleikvassli mine, at 5 to 10 million tons, you could have a mid-tier mining company like a Lundin or any similar company of that sort would look at taking that on and probably buy the property. Anything over 15 to 20 million tons, now you're looking at a big mining company that would get really excited about it. So that's the story with the Bleikvassli, big upside and big advantage. Meraker, the reason that we kept that is a very big land package. It's got a lot of history. The last time that this project was mined was in 1904. Since then, this project has not been touched. What they were taking out of there was 4% copper, 15% zinc, okay? And they never looked at gold. Next slide. So basically, NORA today has two very, very exciting projects. We have track record where in my past, I've 3 companies that have been very successful in taking from pure exploration to building them up to selling them. Okay, and all 3 of them were in excess of the cheapest deal was the $380 million on the Orco Silver. Very, very big upside because you're looking at a country like Norway where your jurisdiction is very similar to Canada, where everything is transparent, where you go get your licenses. You don't have to worry about somebody coming in and say, thank you for doing all this work. Now we want half of the project or we're going to take it away from you. And we've already created wealth in the past, so we're known for that. Next slide. So I have one project in British Columbia that was what I started out with. The reason that I like it is because it's got a very big footprint. It's a 20-kilometer big land package with some amazing, amazing sampling. The first ever drill hole that we did on the pyramid, and nobody's done any work on this property until we did the work. That was in 2017, 493 meters of 0.19 gold. The market didn't like it in 2019. 2017. And as a result of that, we kind of shelved the project and went to Norway. That project, we are under no pressure to do any work. We own it 100%, and it's good till 2030. We have opportunities of JV partners that we've talked to, but I think the timing for a joint venture on this project may be another 6 months from now, when, like Greg was saying in his earlier talk, that the market is going to go crazy for exploration projects. I think this project probably has a very big upside, simply because there's a lot of money that's getting spent up in that Golden Triangle area, where you may see probably in the next 5 years between 3 to 5 new discoveries. So as a small company, we have $500,000 right now. Most of that money was put by us. We're looking to go to the market. We have commitments for the next financing, which will be done hopefully in the next 30 days, which will be in the range of $2 to $3 million. That money will be spent in Norway. Like I told you, most of it will be spent on the Bleikvassli, and probably between $300,000 and $400,000 if we have enough money left over to go on the Meraker. And hopefully we get some amazing drill holes on the Meraker. But Bleikvassli, we don't have to find anything. It's a matter of how big it's going to be. There's already a discovery there. There's a tremendous amount of data that tells us that, we do have a mine that can go back into production with a little bit of maintenance that we can do, which will not cost us a lot of money. But the idea here is to see if we can increase the resource there. Thank you.